December 6, 2025. Well, I want to get into a discussion of something that Secretary of State and Acting National Security Advisor Marco Rubio was interviewed a couple of days ago as of this recording, and on the Hannity program. And Hannity did broach the UAP issue with them. And then I've noticed certain people, particularly this guy, I guess it's Patrick on a YouTube channel called Vetted, had a variety of comments that really annoyed the heck out of me. And so I didn't get into that because after all, okay, the last video I addressed the issue pretty clearly on the whole thing about the drug boats. And of course, yeah, they caught the guy that planted the pipe bombs on the two National Party headquarters on January the 6th or whatever. So, so that's kind of not that interesting compared to, I think, this topic. Okay. In the age of disclosure, which I discussed in a previous video, did a review of it, one of the key figures that was discussed was Marco Rubio. And because he'd made a bunch of pretty open comments on the subject when he was a senator on the ranking Republican, either chairman or ranking member, depending on who had the Senate at that time, of the Select Committee on Intelligence. Okay. So he's one of the most highly cleared members of Congress at the time, one of the gang of 8 that's supposed to get the presidential level intelligence as part of the system by which Congress is allowed to have oversight while still maintaining security on the most sensitive topics. Supposedly they're able to get everything, although I doubt they always do. And and anyhow, and whereas other members of the Intelligence Committee, other than the ranking member and the chairman, don't necessarily get all of it. Oh, they still have a lot of secret information. So, at any rate, they asked him about this subject, his appearance in the film, and I would say, I think some people are taking it in a certain way as he's almost like denying something or whatever. I think he was evasive, I'll agree with that, but then again, when you're asked about something that involves some of the highest security sensitivity in the country, a public official is likely to be a little evasive. I mean, remember Clapper when asked about, is there any way in which the intelligence community monitors the public at large or something, and he basically lied because the NSA was collecting a lot of metadata. Although, we can argue the merits of that and all that, but I'm just saying that this sort of thing happens. In this case, I don't think he lied, but he may have evaded a little bit. The issue is, though, what he has said, and I think part of the problem I see was, although Hannity is a good guy from the point of view of conservatives and interviews and stuff like that, I think this subject is one where he's not that well studied on. And also the purpose of this interview was more about what's going on with Venezuela and what's going on with the Ukraine war and things like that, which are the pressing public issues. And so I don't think he was going to get in depth on the UAP issue. Okay. However, I would point out that the key thing I would argue is, and I disagree with Patrick on Vetted a lot about this, is that he didn't really recant anything. Actually, he just didn't. But he didn't go any further than he'd gone ever. And he did say, yeah, they edited. There was some selective editing. I don't know what he's specifically referring to there, but he points out that his major concern was the normal national security concern that our key potential adversaries, the Chinese and the Russians, might get a leap on us in technology, and could these UAP phenomena be that? And he also referenced the big spy balloon, which apparently they weren't noticing because of the way we were looking for something like that, because the radar frequencies we're using, whatever. Okay. I don't know what they knew about okay, but obviously the UAP phenomenon isn't anything like the spy balloon, and it's nothing. Its performance clearly outclasses any known human aircraft. Okay, and I think that's the point I'm making here. So they're in a distinctive category, and so anyhow, that's what I want to get into this a little bit in this video. If you like these videos, please give me a like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Or alternatively, you can, of course, follow me on Rumble and follow me there, because I post on both sites, your preference, depending on which you see this on. Yeah. So, what I would, I mean, if I was interviewing him, of course, the interview would have gone a little bit different, and I don't know what would have happened then, because I would have pointed out that okay, he says that okay that he refers that these were the people were very high-ranking people with high security clearances, some of whom are still in the government and having very responsible current or former positions. And then he says either these people are either lying, crazy, or telling the truth, even though they're making these exotic claims, right? Now, if you have people that he's describing as including intelligence officials, admirals, and generals, etc., and they're doing either lying or they're nuts, that to me almost demands action almost as much as the UAP subject. I mean, do you want an intelligence official or a general or an admiral who's nuts? Or alternatively is lying to the Senate Intelligence Committee? I mean, either one of which is a very serious situation. And therefore, presumably, they're telling the truth, particularly if there's multiple people with that credential saying more or less the same thing, right? I mean, is it a conspiracy? Do they all get together and, hey, here's a good idea. Even though we have responsible positions and security clearances, we're going to go to the Senate Intelligence Committee and we're going to make up a complete bullshit story and just see if we can fool those guys. Then we'll sit around and laugh at them and see what they do. I tend to think that's not what people with that level of responsibility do. Let's be real. I mean, would you do that? Remember, you could go to prison for that. And according to some people, even worse if you divulge information about the program. So, at any rate, I don't buy that idea at all. And just following his own logic, he has to believe this is a serious subject. Furthermore, on top of that, the intelligence committees of both the House and Senate received the Inspector General report from the Inspector General of the intelligence community, the report on what Dave Grush had claimed. Okay, they have the report, a classified report on what he claimed, and what apparently their findings were that this was important and urgent matter. I forget the exact words, but it wasn't like this was nonsense. We've got a fool out there lying to you. No, they said it was an urgent matter that they should consider. We don't know what came of that. It's kind of went into a black hole of security afterwards, 2 years later. But okay, did he read the report? That'd be a question I'd ask. If he said, I didn't read the report, then I would be like, okay, you got a report from the Inspector General of a serious matter involving this subject that you think is important, and yet at some level, you didn't read the report. I think he read the report. I guess it's possible some people say that the principals are being protected by the staffers and they don't tell them everything they get in the reviews, so they will have, I guess, deniability when they're asked questions by reporters. I don't know if that's true or not. I think he read the report. And okay. And so he knows whatever Grush has claimed. The stuff we don't know exactly what he's claimed, but in detail, but they have the detail. So my next question would be, well, if you did read the report, then what did you do about it? And now that you're national security advisor with that knowledge, what are you going to do about it? I mean, it isn't like he's in a helpless position here. And he can also coordinate with Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national security, who is over the CIA director, who is over the person in the science and technology administration there, what they call it, in the CIA that supposedly is overseeing this thing, at least according to the video. I mean, why not have a meeting with this guy and say, hey, I've got this Inspector General's report. Okay, I'm cleared for everything. I'm a national security advisor, and here's what I want to know about this. I'm just saying. I know he's too busy right now because we've got Ukraine, we've got Gaza, we've got Venezuela and China and all these other things. I got you. One guy can't do everything. Plus, he's got to be Secretary of State at the same time. But I do think that I do see him. Not that I'm not trying to damage his career in any way. I'm very hopeful for it in the long run. I'm saying, but he is a leverage point on the Trump administration. that he can talk to Trump about this. Now, one possibility is, and I raised this in my review of the Age of Disclosure documentary, was that when you actually get to the level when you really do find out the real score, your attitude toward disclosure might be a little different because we don't know what's to disclose. And I'm not going to go through what I said there in detail again, but you get the idea that there could be things. I mean, Trump was all over explaining what those drones that were going over the Picatinny Arsenal and other places in New Jersey were, and said the military knew where they were and everything, and they could tell you the answer. He gets in office a couple of 3 weeks later, after the FAA had testified to Congress that they didn't know what they were, and he puts out a statement saying they were FAA approved drones with no more information coming forward. Whose drones? Are they part of a classified program? Are they just civilian drones? Who approved them? What approved them? What did they approve them for? We don't know. That seems to me to indicate that when he got in there, he got an ask about the subject and found out what it was. This got into kind of a code red situation where we gotta get out of this topic maybe. And I don't. Who knows what the power pressures are? But I will say this: not knocking Trump in any way here, because every president has either not known or taken the same stance that this will not go public, right? And according to what was in the Age of Disclosure, George W. Bush administration did hold a hearing on this, and with some experts, kind of a think tank group, and they decided that it wasn't a good idea to go to disclosure. Okay, and suppose the idea was even looked at in Trump 1 administration, and they decided against it. So maybe when he found out, oh, it's that, I thought it was just some, then, we've already looked at that. No, we're not going to do that for whatever reason they come up with. So at any rate, that's kind of the way I look at it. But nevertheless, because he's gone out that far, that is Rubio, I think this could be an ongoing pressure point to get somewhere like on this subject. And I hope that there'll be follow-up questions with other interviewers that are a bit more knowledgeable about the subject and can because it doesn't make any sense that we know pretty clearly that the U.S. has probably the most overall aerospace capabilities in the world as far as human sources, right? The Chinese may be coming up. They maybe have become a near peer or something like that, but they're not ahead, I don't think. And the Russians are generally behind. Definitely, they're trying to catch up to where we were with a stealth fighter, 25 years ago, basically, or something. So I think, now there are areas where they have things that we don't have. And the reason they have them is because they chose to get them and we didn't have a need for them. For example, this avant-garde, as it's called, maneuvering warhead that they can put on their ICBMs. We didn't see a need for it because they have no credible ballistic missile defense, as I see it, at any rate. And therefore, we were totally confident that our missiles would penetrate the defenses they had, and so we didn't need one. The U.S. has advanced ballistic missile defenses beyond, at least at the prototype level, let's say, beyond what they have. What they do have is a limited ability, like 64 interceptors, similar to our Sprint missiles that we had during the old Nike X system back in the 60s and 70s, with low-yield neutron-oriented warheads that could intercept ballistic missiles heading toward Moscow. But remember, we have multiple ways of attacking, including cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and so forth, and stealth bombers, and I think we're convinced we can get through. And other than that, there's no other target there that we probably have the bigger challenge, large enough challenge to even need it. I don't get into that whole issue too much, but that just gives an issue that they've worked on kind of a hypersonic missile, the Kinzhal, which we didn't work on. But again, we didn't see a need for it. Apparently, given the capabilities we have, they did see a need for it. We could have probably developed one if we'd have went into it about the same time they did, but we didn't. We are working on hypersonic missiles now, and soon I'm sure we'll have them. It's not a lack of ability. I'm just saying where there are advances in some limited areas, it's because they have a unique need that we didn't have or didn't think we needed. So, but the overall technology base, I think we're ahead. So, therefore, I don't think something like a UAP is really, based on my current knowledge, is anything that they could build. And so, it's almost certainly extraterrestrial or non-human, or however you want to state it. And so, and given that, I think we also have positive evidence within these secure programs with the bodies and the craft that clearly confirm that. And that's the big secret. So, as to why we're keeping it so secret, that's something to be determined. But I think we should still. I think we see Rubio is still a potential leverage point on the administration, and that we can continue to. They're going to have to figure out what they're going to say about this. I think they may decide just to flat lie. I guess I hope not, but that isn't very good on disclosure. So. And we don't know what pressures they're under to keep it secret either. We don't even know why. I mean, I've raised issues myself what that could be. So I just wanted to kind of go through that a little bit. I think that Patrick on there was being like that. This has shot down the whole thing. There's a lot of other things in that movie that are evidential. I mean, Clapper, whatever else you say about him, admitted that there was a UAP tracking program around Area 51 that the Air Force was running, and so, so now the other thing you'd have to be if the government officials are now deceiving the public and saying that UFOs are real, after a history of 80 years of trying to say the opposite, I don't buy that at all. So I think they are kind of coming forward a little bit, but it's at the edge there. And I think that the previous director of national intelligence under the Biden administration admitted that they were things that we don't know what they are. So if you look at all the evidence that's out there from multiple official sources, this is still worth pursuing. And the other thing I'll criticize the guy on Vetted about is this. He spends most of his time talking about what the producer of the movie said on the Rogan program, not for the most part the material that's actually in the program. That is in the age of disclosure. And so I'm like, well, yeah, but this guy has a lot of personal opinions he can't justify. Okay, I think some of them are actually wrong. For instance, I don't think it's $1 trillion super program like they say that's been hidden away. I think it's not nearly that expensive. In my own opinion, is we do have some recovered craft. We're still trying to recover and study. We're trying to learn. But I think it's being done on a much lower level with fewer people. And that's how you're keeping it secret, is you don't have that many people involved relative to, let's say, a major aircraft program, or what I mean. So the number of people that are really cleared for this is quite limited. And therefore, they're doing studies, they're not actually building their own replicas. That's my own opinion. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. And so that's how they've been able to keep it under wraps. And I suspect one of the biggest issues is they really don't understand it that well, but we'll see. On the other hand, there's something new developed on the Cold Heart program that just came out. There was a couple that have published a book. What it's called, but at any rate, infinity, something or other. At any rate, basic thing in that book is that this lady, basically a guy who was an Air Force intelligence special operative guy who left the service, I think got into kind of corporate security type stuff. At any rate, and married a lady from Russia, and her father, apparently, turns out, although it had a cover story that he was a plumber, apparently he was actually a scientist who worked at a Russian classified city. They had, in the Soviet days, they had these cities where they kept the sensitive military work and the people that worked in them separate from the general population. And you had to kind of have special authorization to go in there or something like that. At any rate, he sort of like, let's say, their Area 51 or something analogous. And at any rate, so he worked there, and apparently he was apparently a hardline commie, but when the system fell after repeated efforts to contract the Russian Federation's Duma to continue the work, because I presume because the economy had gone bad, they quit working on it and it all fell by the wayside. And apparently, after some frustration, he had some written notes that he created. I don't think they're classified documents formally, but they're his own notes on what he'd learned, and sent them to her in Russian. And they've since been translated and published in this book. So we'll see what this turns into. From what they had on the, well, we'll just see. I've ordered a copy, so maybe in a future video I'll give you a report on what I think about it. Is it real? Is it just him, the guy speculating, or is this really a leak from the Russian program? Who knows? Anyway, I'll be wrapping this up for now. I hope people find this subject interesting. As always, I'll be posting this on YouTube and Rumble, and the address of my social media accounts are in the description below. And so that'll be it for this time.